Hello, this is Virtual the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. In today's video, I played against an opponent who used the modern defense. Now the modern defense, and in fact all the hypermodern defenses, are something I've not really studied very much. I don't encounter them very frequently at my level. I don't really enjoy playing against them. But one of the benefits from this is I don't really know any theory. So this game is actually a pretty good demonstration of how I won using opening principles and then some middle game tactics and strategy. Let's go take a look. I've got the white pieces in this game. So e4 and the opponent led with g6. The modern defense generally trying to control the center with the pieces, so fianchetto bishop. Now, opening principles, take the full center if you can. D4. There's the bishop. Now obviously attacking that pawn and now developing pieces, knights generally before bishops. Now that's already defended, so I could sort of develop either knight. In this case, I did develop that knight, but I think Stockfish actually thinks developing knight c3 might actually be a little bit better. Okay, that's no threat to me. Here I decided to develop that bishop. Developing the knight would have been fine as well. They develop that knight as well, and here I decided to be a little bit provocative. Bishop to b5, pinning the knight to the king. Stockfish thinks developing the other knight is best. But here I thought this was potentially okay, so they developed there. I kind of expected that, developed the knight. Now they're going to force me to take. That's okay. Captures, and potentially I saw, there's a potential attack on that bishop. Here, before committing to a side to castle, again, part of the opening principles, I'm not threatened in the center yet. I don't have to rush to castling. And with sort of the bishop's fianchetto, sometimes it's not clear which side is best. So I thought, need to develop the queen. Which square is best? Any of those? I couldn't really decide after a minute, so I eventually played queen d3. Now I think queen d2 might actually have been potentially better. They now push another pawn. And here I opted to castle this way. Stockfish reckons castling the other way would have been best, but I'm still potentially completely okay. So this was all just based on opening principles. I had no knowledge of theory against the modern, and I'm still slightly ahead as white. I think, here the evaluation bar says plus 0.0.2. I think at deeper depth, about 0.03. So a little bit ahead. Very nice. They now develop that knight, and here I knew I should push one of these pawns. Which one? Not too sure. I eventually decided to push this one, but pushing a d5 would have been slightly better, simply because the bishop doesn't really have very many good places to go here, so is really forced to go back, to d7, which really cramps black's position. However, in this game, I end up playing that move, as you can see, Stockfish. And the thing here is that the knight can actually have some forward progress. There we go. I now decide to give an attack on the queen. Queen side steps. Here I decide to let's trade. And here, black decide to take back with the pawn, which was an inaccuracy, so about plus 0.75. They've doubled their pawns, but also sort of blocked in that light square bishop. Potentially, that file could be open, and then there'll be some reasonable tricks there. Now, in this position, I decided to play b3. So I was worried about a potential bishop to b5 with a skewer of my queen and rook. But Stockfish is not afraid. So Stockfish thinks that move or that move potentially is best. So this kind of makes sense. So simply you're moving the rook out of a skewer. But this dynamically makes sense as well, because after captures, if they try that, we've got a check. So potentially could have had that dynamic defense, which is why Stockfish called this an inaccuracy. It's just a little bit slow. But as we'll see, potentially blocking that future move actually ends up being useful. So this ends up being a useful prophylactic move. Now black decides to short castles, and my middle game tactic here now is trying to move my pieces into attacking black's position, potentially attacking down the h-file, maybe getting rid of some of these pawns, defending the king. Whenever there's a fianchetto bishop in front of the king, being able to get rid of that bishop is often very, very useful. So these were some of the sort of ideas that I had here. Now, immediately I decided to attack the bishop. Now this was a mistake because I think what black actually can do is they can indulge with captures, but then the queen comes to e6 and I lose the pawn. There's no real way I can defend that pawn. So that's why it was a mistake. However, black didn't see that. Oops, there we go. They didn't see that line. Decided to play rook e8, which was a mistake on their own, because now I get to capture that on my own terms, still have the pawn on the e-file, they take back, and now I bring my rook to the e-file. And here potentially I'm doing reasonably well. Here they saw that skewer, that skewer. I thought that was going to come at some point, and so I now have c4. So it doesn't work because takes, they're forced to move the bishop another time, basically losing some tempo. So I push that pawn forward. They should have taken, that's fine. I now move my queen. So now there's a potential discovered check. They take a blunder. My attack is going to be down on the king side. These shenanigans, these antics on the queen side, I'm not worried about it. They do, potentially create a passed pawn, and that's a good thing, but there is a real threat brewing on their king side, and I'm about to do an attack. Now here, I kind of rushed the move. I knew I had to discover check, and I decided to take right away. That was an obvious mistake because I could just push the pawn forward, discover check, and I win a piece the next turn. So that would have been better, but I decided to do this instead. Discover check, and now I decide to jump my queen forward, infiltrate. Look, in all these positions, Stockfish reckons it can defend against it, and it probably can. But these are not easy positions for a human to defend against. And, as you can see, look, Stockfish reckoned developing the knight, or moving in the knight first was best. I was going to move that next turn with an immediate mate threat here. So they take. Very slow, doesn't help. I could always potentially capture back, but now knight forward, you can see, excellent move, because that is now a serious mate threat. If they don't do something about that, there'll be check, king forced here, and then that would be mate. So they're forced to bring their rook across. Now my rook jumps forward, another attacking piece. Black is forced to now put another piece again, and you can see 43. Look, whenever you see stuff like that, it just means that Stockfish at low depth can't find a mate. But there is a mate here, and in fact, it's a mate in 12. Now, I definitely can't see a mate in 12, but it's a really brilliant line. So I'm actually going to show you what that mate is. It's the knight to e6. And in fact, with this move, black is forced to give up their queen. They have to give up their queen, and even then, they're in trouble. So captures, they can push forward, and now I move that forward, and they can't take here because that would be mate. So a really cramped position. The king tries to escape, captures. Here another sort of immediate mate threat, but they just have enough time with the bishop to sneak in to defend that pawn. Here we can force a potential trade and getting the pawn to promote. Here we go. Takes with check. King tries to run away. Check. Another queen. Check. Check. And this is finally mate. We end up hunting the king down. So that was a very, very, potentially brilliant line. Where are we? Yep, so here I needed to find that move. And in a short term, in a medium term, they actually can't take with the pawn because that will be mate. And as I said, the only way they can prevent mate is actually to sacrifice the queen. So this was actually the wrong move for white. White actually needed to defend that position with their queen and accept a queen loss. Really, really interesting. However, I'm a human. I can't see mates in 11, mates in 12. So here I thought, oh, I can't quite see what I'm doing. What I need to do, I'm going to bring another piece into the attack with a pawn attacking this way. Now black brings a queen and trying to trade queens. Nah, I don't want to trade queens. I take that pawn. They move that pawn forward. And here I really wasn't sure how I could win. So I decided now to, given that I couldn't see where the mating line was, I'm going to attack black's queen, which is a little bit offside. And out of those complications, hoping that I induce or compel a blunder, or maybe force black to move these pawns forward. So attack the queen. Queen immediately blunders. And in fact, in this very complicated position, I think we do a series of 5 consecutive blunders, according to Stockfish. I now play this move, seeing that, potentially I can take that. You can see Stockfish calls that a blunder. Here, they think they've got a fork, but that's a blunder. I knew that was actually potentially okay for me because I've now got a check, but apparently that was a blunder as well. They defend, but now I've got a good move. I could see, I can take, and that's actually what I foresaw, so I didn't know that was a blunder. And now black is in some trouble. Take, capture, potential sort of mate threat here. So they have to take, and here attack the queen again. And now there's an open H file. I smashed open their H file. I'm peeling away the defenses from the king, keeping on the heat. Notice that the king is on the back rank. That pawn's gone, but these pawns have moved forward. Every time a defensive pawn moves forward, it leaves something behind. Pawns can only move forward, which means these squares are potentially very weak. At the moment, defended by that rook. We shall see what happens. They move the queen out of the way. Makes sense. I now decide to potentially make an attack here. You can see Stockfish thinks that putting the rook onto the H file was best, but I didn't see that, have to admit. But I also recognize that this potential rank is very weak for black. And I thought here that they're going to try to, connect their rooks together so that they can attack my queen and probably go into the C file looking at, potentially protecting that pass pawn to promote. But I knew that that was a mistake for them because they're just not fast enough. And that is what they did. You can see a mistake. And here, Stockfish says it's +6. Why is that? Because I now have rook to the 7th rank. Rooks on the 2nd and 7th are very strong. This now delaminates the king from defenses of those pawns. It's like those pawns aren't there. The king cannot now enter that space. Here, they try to give an attack on the queen, which is what I expected, but check. There we go. King moves. That open H file. Check. King forced to move again. And now, final infiltration, this delamination, those pawns move forward only one step, but it's one step too far. Queen to H7, mate. Good game, GG. My big takeaway from this game is to learn, practice, and consolidate opening principles and middle game tactics and strategies. They really do work, and it's very satisfying when the things you've learned come together for a win. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.